Now part of the Darkcast Network. Welcome to Indie Podcasts with a Dark Side. In a small English village, a seemingly ordinary couple embarks on a journey filled with carelessness and tragedy, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and dark secrets. I'll tell you a case of deception, betrayal, and murder. Let's get into the case of Martin and Lianne Smith right now on Love and Murder. Welcome, lambs. Welcome to a new episode of Love and Murder, your weekly true crime podcast telling you cases of heartbreak that turn to homicide. I'm your host, Kai, and in today's episode, we're discussing a case that will give you whiplash all the way to the end. Before we begin, I want to say that this episode and all my episodes are sponsored by my lambs in Patreon, patreon.com/love and murder. Also, I do want to say that I am actually holding the mic. It is not sitting steady on my desk as it normally is because I am not in my office today. So I will try to make sure that I'm not moving the mic around or hitting it or anything like that. But if you do hear that, please forgive me because I'm holding it as steady as I can in my hands. Be sure to subscribe to Love and Murder right now while you're listening so you don't miss a case. And if you didn't know, you can also subscribe to our Patreon so that you don't have to hear intros like this one or commercials that are coming up. You'll get Kai rants, bonuses, episodes, extras, and you'll be a sponsor of Love and Murder. Patreon.com/Love and Murder. In the meantime, though, grab your butts, grab your BJ's apple juice, murderandlove.com/BJ's, and let's get into some Love and Murder. 45-year-old Martin Smith, at the time of this case, and Leanne Smith, who was 43, met in 1992 and had been together for about 18 years. They were not married, but they did share the same last name. Martin and Leanne went back and forth from home to home across the northwest of England between 2003 and 2007. Up to 2003, they had rented a small bungalow in the village of Brampton near Carlisle in the UK. And they rented this bungalow from the owner of a local garden center. Then they left unexpectedly, according to neighbor Rod McLeod. And he said, quote, "The landlord told me they did a moonlight flit. The place was completely empty. I never met them." From there, Martin and Leanne then moved to Blackpool, where they had a daughter, Rebecca, in 2005. And although they were there, it was the same story. Nobody ever met them. People really didn't see them. And then once again, they disappeared. The landlord of this Blackpool home said that the couple disappeared without a trace. They didn't pay their rent, and the house was completely trashed when he went and checked it. Quote, "There were toys all over the place and filth. It was appalling." So after Blackpool, they went back to Cumbria to a 3-bedroom house in Carlisle. But that's when Martin was arrested on suspicion of child sex charges. After he was arrested, they gave him bail. He peaced out and ran. One of the neighbors who used to live near them in Carlisle said, quote, "They just disappeared one day." So when he ran from being on bail, that's when they moved to Litchfield Stacks for 6 months before once again just picking up and leaving out of the blue. One of their neighbors said, quote, "Her husband was quite ignorant. He was antisocial and didn't speak at all. On one occasion, I spoke to him as he was getting into his car, but he completely ignored me. I thought maybe he was deaf, but next time he did the same thing. He just did not want to associate with us." So by now, 3 years have passed, and now he is one of Britain's most wanted men. So after moving back and forth and being on the run in the UK, they decided they were going to try a different country. So Martin and Leanne went from the UK to Spain with their daughter, and Martin started going by the name Tony Ross. While in Spain, they had another child. Now, when Leanne was in England, she worked for Cumbria County Council, and when they went to Catalan, Spain, she retrained as an English language teacher and then tried to set up a preschool group for English-speaking children. And this is just how they made their money. Now, although they kept a low profile as they kept trying to do year to year to year to year, police were still able to find Martin, and he was discovered by the Mossos Okay, I'm going to mess this up. De Escuadra Colonia's regional police force and arrested on May 7th in Barcelona after a local restaurant owner helped police to find him. Quote, "The police showed me a photo and I recognized him as someone who came to eat here from time to time. He must have been in about 4 or 5 times in the last few months. They came back afterwards to say that they had found him and thanked me for my help." From there, he was extradited to Britain and appeared in court in Carlisle. After Martin's arrest on May 8th, Leanne took the 2 children to the Hotel Miramar in Lloret del Mar. And workers said that they did note that there was constantly this note on the door saying that, quote, "Do not disturb, my children are ill." So, of course, they didn't disturb. 3 days later, this was on a Tuesday afternoon by now, and it was around 2 p.m., Leanne asked the hotel staff to call the police and an ambulance. When they asked her, "Why, what's wrong? Can we help with anything?" she just said, quote, "You will see." So, of course, they called police, they called the ambulance, everything like that. And police arrived to find the bodies of the children, Daniel and Rebecca, laying side by side, tucked into bed. Rebecca, who was 5, and Daniel, who was 11 months old at this time, looked to have been suffocated using plastic bags. So all eyes turned to Leanne, and she sang like a bird. She made a full confession and said that this was motivated by her fear that because Martin was arrested, her children would be taken into foster care. Quote, asked if she wanted to be present when the 2 bodies were removed, she declined as she said she had already said goodbye to her 2 children. So she goes on in her confession and said that she spent the night laying beside the lifeless children before that morning or afternoon, actually, of alerting the hotel staff. Police also said they found a suicide note in which she wrote, quote, "I hope you can forgive me." When police questioned the staff at the hotel, they said she was in a sort of, quote, zombie state when she came and told them to call the police. And when they questioned the security guard, he said, quote, "She came downstairs and calmly asked reception to call the police and send them to her room. Then she sat down on the sofa in reception and just stared into space and waited for them to arrive. She was completely unemotional. Police and ambulance arrived and it all went crazy, and through it all, she was just sitting there staring." So Leanne was arrested and she ended up being placed on a 24-hour suicide watch and by herself away from other inmates because she kept telling police that, quote, she intends to join her children on the other side. Now, Martin, on the other hand, he's still in jail and everything like that. And just hours after being told that his children were dead, he had to appear at the Carlisle Magistrates Court to face 13 child sex charges. And also, the court didn't grant him bail because he heard that he had attempted to take his own life and was suicidal. So he was on suicide watch himself. So just basically, both parents are as crazy as a bag of rocks. While Leanne was in jail, she continuously refused to eat or drink and even had to be visited by a medic. Police were also considering whether or not to ask her to decide if the bodies of her 2 children should have been moved to Britain or buried in Spain, because no other relatives came forward to claim responsibility for the bodies. So she was the only one they could ask. Let's take a short commercial break from this episode and dive deeper into Love and Murder with the Lamb Supporters Club. Now, I'm going to implore you to join us on Patreon at patreon.com/Love and Murder, or you can join us on Spotify or Spreaker, whichever platform offers easier access to you to join the Lamb Supporters Club. You can find links to all of these platforms in the show notes below. Now, I know you're wondering, what do you get as a Lamb supporter? Do you only get to support Love and Murder? Which I know that's just, for some of you, that's enough, and for others, that's not enough. So, as a Lamb supporter, you get episodes free of commercials such as this one, so you would get the episode straight through without any commercial. You get no intro. We get straight to the heart of the episode. Plus, you get bonus treats like more Kai rants. And for our Patreon family, you get even more extras. You get case extras such as pictures from this case and some other cases. They have the case file, they have videos, they have interrogation videos. Whatever I could find of the case, you get that in our Patreon. Now, I'm still on my quest to reach 500 lambs by the end of 2024, and I'm asking you for your help in this goal. Patreon.com/love and murder. Or you could find the links to the other platforms below. Come on over. We're saving a spot just for you. Now, real quick, I just want to tell you about BJ's. I know you always hear me talking about your BJ's apple juice in the beginning of the show, so let me tell you a little bit about BJ's. If you're anything like me, well, first of all, so sorry to hear. And second of all, you love saving money on anything, groceries included. With BJ's, you can get a year membership and save so much money on your grocery shopping. You shop in bulk, shop one time if you have a small family, and don't have to go shopping again for the whole month. Not only that, most things you buy are cheaper than other stores. So you're saving so much money, time, just saving. BJ's offers groceries, they offer clothes, they offer electronics, they offer eye exams and glasses, they offer travel expenses, discounted travel expenses. It's so much you get at BJ's. As I keep telling y'all, I signed up to test BJ's just a couple years ago, and I have continuously renewed my membership. I have not left. Now, if you sign up today using my link, murderandlove.com/BJ's, you'll save $35 on your first year's membership. $35 you'll save on top of all the other savings. Plus, they gave out amazing coupons and discounts on top of already discounted things. So if you want to try out BJ's for 1 year, just like I did, and you'll continue on with BJ's, just go to murderandlove.com/BJ's and you'll save $35 on your first year's membership. So I help you, you help me, and we all help each other. murderandlove.com/BJ's. And now back to the show. During court, Leanne told the court, quote, "I ended the lives of my 2 children. Then I lay in the bed beside them. I gave them a cuddle. I talked to them until about 9 p.m. Then I went to the bathroom." Then she went on to explain how she killed Daniel. Quote, "I put a bag on his head. All of the head was in. And she said that she knew he was dead, quote, because I was holding him." Then she went on to describe how she killed Rebecca with the exact same bag, saying that Rebecca moved as she had tied the bag around her head. She said Rebecca moved, but she didn't grab her or kick out. She was just moving around. After both children were dead, Leanne spent the night writing a series of notes, and she wrote one to Rebecca and she wrote one to Daniel and said, quote, "I love you very much. I wanted to give you a lovely life together. I'm very sorry." When asked why she murdered her children, she said the same thing she told the cops. She was afraid that because Martin had been arrested on child sex offenses, the children would have been taken away from her and placed into foster care. She then told police that after she murdered her child, she then tried to take her own life by cutting her own wrist and cutting her throat. When that didn't work, she then tried to drown herself. When that didn't work, she then tried to suffocate herself. When that didn't work, she then tried to hang herself. Ma'am, it doesn't sound like... You know what, Kai? Shut up. Just shut up. So she said that's when she went down to the hotel reception and she asked them to call the ambulance and the police. And that's how that unfolded. She goes on to say, quote, "They wanted to take my daughter into care, so we left England and moved to Barcelona to live a normal life. I gave them a 3-day holiday, a perfect holiday, because it was the end of the road. I knew they were going to take my children to England. My daughter didn't want to go. I know it's not right to take a life. I felt I was in a corner. My intention was that my children and me would go together. It wasn't just the children." The court also heard from other witnesses, and just hours before she left the city and drove 50 miles north to the hotel, she had hired a nanny to live with the family. So they spoke with the nanny, Mimi Buckley, who was 21 years old, from Myerside. She said on May 12th, she moved into the family's rented apartment, but within 24 hours of her moving in, Leanne had taken her children and disappeared. Quote, "I think she meant to hire me as a nanny and leave her children with me and then commit suicide, but I don't think she could bear to leave them, so she did what she did. It's so sad." I would agree that it would be sad if she left them and then did what you thought she was going to do. Yeah, I would say that's sad. but it's diabolical that in her selfishness, she was like, I don't want to leave my kids and I don't want anybody else to have them. So I wouldn't call that sad. I would call that diabolical and narcissistic. So sad in terms of me feeling bad for her doesn't really come to mind. So her defense lawyer, Jennifer Lajos Abos, I think, implored the court and said that Leanne did admit to killing the children, but she asked for the court to consider throwing out the murder charges and throwing in the plea of guilty by grounds of insanity. Now, y'all know I was going to say that because y'all knew they had to throw that out there. The prosecution instead told the jury that Leanne, quote, took advantage of the trust the children gave to her as their mother when she killed them. He also added to that the children were asleep and, quote, totally incapable of defending themselves. And he asked for Leanne to be considered for murder and to be placed in jail for 38 years for 2 counts of murder. And also, quote, the prosecution says she was not suffering from mental illness. So with the defense sitting there sweating because, he had no defense really, so he just said, hey, let's play the mental health card. The jury went out to deliberate. Now, after a 4-day trial, 8 hours of deliberation, and a whole lot of wondering why we were even here when the police could have just said she was guilty way back when they first arrested her, the jury came back and the panel of 7 men and 2 women said that Leanne was, quote, fully conscious and knew what she was doing when she smothered Rebecca and 11-month-old Daniel in their beds in Costa Brava. They completely gave the middle finger to Leanne's defense and said that this claim of mental health is completely bogus. I can't believe you're studying law. If I was a judge or if I was anybody who held your job in my hands, I would have you disbarred, sir. They didn't really say that, but in my head they did. And they said she was guilty on 2 counts of murder. So F you, sit down and go to jail. They did, however, agree that Leanne did suffer from an unspecified psychosis and from depression, but she wasn't criminally insane because there are people who suffer psychosis. She could have been stressing out because of everything that was going on. Yeah, there's people who suffer a mental break because of stress. They don't murder their family. There's people who are depressed. Guess what they don't do? Murder their family. So, you're not criminally insane. Shut up. Prosecutor Victor Piado Quintes, might say that wrong, said, quote, today, justice has been done for 2 defenseless small children who were murdered in the most abominable and vile way by their own mother. So on July 2nd, 2012, she was sentenced to 30 years in a Spanish jail. Judge Adolfo Garcia Morales said that it was, quote, absolutely clear that Leanne had planned the deaths of Daniel and Rebecca. Now, as you remember, the prosecution had called for 38 years, and then they changed that to requesting the maximum sentence of 34 years. But Judge Morales only gave her 15 years for each murder, which equals out to the 30 years. Now, here's a part you're not going to believe. Remember I kept saying Martin was jailed on child sex charges and everything like that? So he was jailed for 16 years at the Manchester Crown in court of 2011. And the charges were, here we go, repeatedly raping Leanne's daughter from a previous relationship whose name was Sarah Richardson. So she had 2 children from a previous relationship, and this piece of shit that she's sitting there getting all discombobulated over and running back and forth throughout Europe with, talking about, oh, I'm so stressed out, was raping her daughter from a previous relationship repeatedly. Can you believe that? Can you even digest that? Sarah, who is now a nurse, came out. She waived her right to anonymity. She didn't want to be hiding behind anything. She wanted her face shown and her story told, and said that he abused her for a decade after attempting to put her in hypnotic trances. What? You were trying to hypnotize her so what, she would either do it or forget that it was done? And you were doing this for 10 years and your mom knew about it? And she left you and took the other two kids, talking about she was afraid her children were going to be taken from her. Oh my God. And following this man, who the reason why he's going to jail was because of what he was doing to her daughter. Pieces of shit. So yeah, like I said, sad is not the word that comes to mind when I think of her. So he was convicted of 11 counts of rape, attempted rape, indecency with a child, and indecent assault. And ultimately, he ended up hanging himself in his cell. So 2 pieces of absolute trash. And that is all I have for you today. Oh, wait, no. That's not all I have for you today. If you thought this was crazy already, strap on in. While they were waiting for Leanne to be sentenced, a question about paternity came to light. Now, it had come to light that Leanne had allegedly once worked as a prostitute offering, quote, personal services to clients across North England. And I know you're asking, well, who was pimping her out? Was she doing it just to bring in money for the family because they were on the run? No. Her pedophile partner, Martin, was the one who would pimp her out. He would drive her to her clients, and then he would sit and wait in the car while business was being conducted. Now, they started wondering who was the true father of the children because Rebecca had been born in Blackpool, Lancashire. For some reason, I can't say Lancashire. I keep saying Lancan. So forgive me. I'm going to leave it because I've been trying it so many times. I just edited it out. So Lancashire, I'm going to say it like this, in 2004. And then Daniel was born in 2009 in Barcelona. One of the police sources said, quote, in the 1990s, the family had very little money and at one stage were even forced to live for some time in a static caravan. During this time, Leanne was offering, quote, holistic or, quote, personal services to a wide range of clients in the North, and Martin Smith would drive her to one of these sessions and wait in the car while she conducted the business. It is generally understood by those investigating the case that Miss Smith was offering sexual services to those clients, that she was in fact a prostitute. Now, on Rebecca's birth certificate, which she was born July 15th, 2004, and it shows that she was born at Blackpool's Victoria Hospital, it does list the father as Martin Anthony Smith, quote, a music business manager. Now, it's unknown if while she was pregnant, she was still offering, quote, personal services, but it was around this time in 2003 that her and Martin had broken up for about 5 months. So it was like, okay, they were broken up, and then next thing you know, she comes in and she's having a baby, which that doesn't mean anything because just because some people break up doesn't mean they don't hook up occasionally. So, but then again, like they said, it becomes murky if she's going around and she was still doing, quote, personal services even after they had broken up. Now, Daniel was conceived around September 2008, and this was 9 months after the family had ran to Spain. He was born at Val de Hebron Hospital on the outskirts of Barcelona on June 28, 2009. However, during their search for his birth certificate, they found literally no record of his birth being formally registered. So when asking Leanne's family about any comments about these allegations, nobody reached out. Everybody stayed quiet. They were like, it's none of my business. I don't know. Leave me alone. And during the trial, quote, Interpol contacted the court some time ago to tell us the DNA sample we were sent by the British authorities may not have been Mr. Martin Smith. So basically, during the trial, they had come out and said that, ooh, these children aren't even his. But it came out later that the DNA sample that had been sent in was probably not even his DNA anyway. So basically, there's no answer to this. Nobody knows if the kids belong to Martin or not. I mean, really, not that it matters. I just thought this was an interesting side note. Either way, whether it was his kids or not, it was still Leanne's children, and all of this happened. She's following a man who raped her daughter. Whether or not, these are his kids, they were still hers. She murdered them because she was so distraught over following some guy who got arrested for raping her daughter. And she thought she was going to bring 2 more children, which was 1 more girl, into the mix to live with this guy who, let me reiterate, was raping her daughter for 10 years. And just the craziness. So it doesn't matter if they were his kids or not. What mattered is they were her kids, and she was not protecting them in any form or fashion. None whatsoever. Being irresponsible, allegedly irresponsible while she was pregnant, because there's no proof of if she was or wasn't, and being irresponsible by keeping them around this guy. And then finally being irresponsible by being a narcissistic asshole and murdering them. What do y'all think about this case? Now, that is all I have for you today. All the twists and turns and the ups and downs and the lefts and rights. That roller coaster ride was a ride. Now, I'd love to hear from you, as usual, in the comments below. I will have a poll question out. You could either get it on Spotify or on my brand new LinkedIn channel called Love and True Crime, which you could find the link in the show notes below. Editing Kai here. While editing, I noticed I said LinkedIn. I don't know why. It's actually a WhatsApp group called Love and True Crime. Okay, back to the show. On my LinkedIn channel, I will be putting the polls because it's just easier to get it there. Everybody can see it. You can answer it, whatnot. Or if you want to stick on Patreon, you can answer it there or even in our private Facebook group. But if you do join the Love and True Crime WhatsApp group, number 1, your number is not shown. So it's completely private. Nobody's going to see your phone number, but you will get news reports that I'm not going to do rants on, but I do want you to see. You will get news reports in there. And if you join our Patreon, I do add that to our Patreon plus extra news reports. And you get the poll questions, you get episode reminders, a lot of stuff if you join our WhatsApp. And again, everything's confidential, so your name and your phone number doesn't show up. And the link is in the show notes below. So I look forward to seeing you in my brand new WhatsApp chat. And in last week's episode, it was the case of the Tiger woman, Clara Phillips. I asked you, the poll question was, have you ever done something stupid that you later regretted because you thought the person was so hot? And it was completely split. The options were yes, and I'm ashamed, yes, and that's part of life, and nope. And 33% of you said yes, and I'm ashamed. 33% said yes, and that's part of life. And 33% of you said nope. I mean, there are people, I'm not going to say everybody does it. There are people who haven't done it. I'm surprised because maybe you didn't have a crush. Maybe you were just like, if they don't like me, then they don't like me. I mean, some people have that confidence. I want your confidence. That's what I'm going to tell you. I really give me some of that confidence because I don't have it. But as you heard in that episode, I did do something stupid for my crush. Almost broke my leg and ankle because of it. But it is what it is. Like you said, it is part of life. I don't regret it. And as for your comments, it was the same question. Susan Frank said, absolutely, she did something because she thought somebody was so hot. Christina Bobo said, oh my God, such a cute story of how you wooed your husband. Christina, I wasn't trying to, I was trying to woo him, but I don't think that's a story of woo. She goes on, the craziest thing that I ever did was talk back to my mom when she said, say something else. I wanted to impress my crush and I couldn't let him see me get chumped. So I replied, something else. Well, let's just say Pound Town used to have a different meaning back then. I never wanted to see him again after that. I still don't know what possessed me, but my mom exorcised that stupid right out of me. And Christina, I'm sorry, but like I told you in the Facebook group, there has been no one ever in the Everest of ever that I've ever met in my entire life that I ever wanted to impress that much that I would think of a death sentence by looking my mom, who's from the Caribbean, and you with the Caribbean parents, you know what I'm talking about. My mom, who's from the Caribbean, and telling her, say something else, or even if she says, say something else, me looking at her with a defiant look or a defiant stand, even if I didn't say anything, girl, we wouldn't have Love and Murder today because I wouldn't be here today. Somebody else would be telling the tale of what my mom did to me on their true crime podcast. That's literally what would have happened. And it would have all been because I wanted to impress somebody who's now, because I'm dead, who's now ended up married to somebody else. Like, there's no way. There's no way. I never in my life. So Christina goes on to explain that she was 12 or 13 and puberty had me in a chokehold, but my mom delivered me for sure. I didn't even have the type of mom to play with like that, so I don't really know why I tried it. Girl, puberty and grown adulthoodness has never had me in that chokehold. Girl, my mom lives states away and I still would never, because the next knock on the door, I don't care if it was 5 seconds later, I would swear it was my mom coming to show me what's what. No, 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 no. Christina Bobo also said, when I think of the glamorous ladies of the 20s, Clara does not fit the description. Beauty truly is in the eye of the beholder. 10 years was not enough. Her escape and lack of remorse should have granted her more time too. The husband waited. Yes, girl. He gets the Donkey of the Day award for sure. Also, I don't blame Peggy for hushing up, because after witnessing what she saw, I wouldn't have wanted to be next. I agree. I completely agree. I'm happy that she was brave enough to testify. Girl, that's what you always know. If I had walked in, or if I was there and I saw it and I didn't know it was happening, and I went and I saw what was happening, or I walked in after they said, hey, I need help, and I walk in and I'm seeing this, girl, I'm going to be your best friend for that time limit. Oh yeah, let me help you clean that up. I'm going to get the wash rag and the broom and stuff from my trunk. I'll be like, I'm out. Like, or if I see you doing that, hack, and I'm just like, and you turn to me and you're like, you're not going to tell anybody, right? You're going to help me out. I'll be like, girl, yeah, I got you. I'm not body. I'll be your best friend for that 5-second window while I'm there. But soon as I'm out of sight, no. That's why I don't understand in movies when they're like looking you dead in the face while you're holding an axe and they tell you, I'm going to call the authorities. Are you stupid? I'm going to tell you to your face, look, I'm not telling nobody nothing. I was with you. I saw what that bitch did. That bitch was bitching. So I'm with you 100%. Now, after you turn around or you're a safe distance away from me, dude, I'm out and I'm calling everybody. Everybody. I'm calling everybody I know and everybody I don't. I'm singing bird. I'm telling everybody. I'm putting it on social media. Yo, if you see me gone, look to this and this person. They just did something crazy. They did da. Call 911. I'm running through the woods right now. I don't have reception, but if you get this, call 911. I'm at the coordinates of 32 latitude, 42 longitude. Please send something. Look, do not do anything in front of me. And that is all I have for you for today's episode. Like I said, look for the poll question. I also want to apologize for this week's schedule. It was bleh. That's it. I told y'all that I did find out something about myself, and it helps me not beat myself up a lot. So when I have these weeks of blah, I don't kick my own ass, and I just take it as it is. So that's what happened last week, but I did try and get out your episodes, and we're back on track for this week. And like I always say, thank you for still riding with me. I want to thank you so much for still riding with me. I'm not as consistent where I have the episodes out at 6 p.m. on Sunday night like everybody else, but I am me and I could only do what I can do. And I want to thank you for still being patient with me and still riding with Flam. And with that, before I start crying and going into blubbering mode, I'm going to end this episode. I want to remind you that a free and easy way to help out Love and Murder is by simply sharing this episode. So hit the share icon, share in your WhatsApp, share to your social media, share with your friends, share with your mom, share with your dad, share with your dog. Share. And as we end each episode, I want to remind you that it's all love and no murder, y'all. And stay tuned for an introduction to a podcast bestie of mine.
Welcome to Creepy Tapas,
where we do the opposite of deep dives and bring you tiny tastes of terror connected by a common ingredient.
True stories to haunt and chill you and the pop culture they inspired.
Or at least the movies and books that remind us of them.
Join us as we descend into darkness,
beginning with the lighter side of our weekly topic,
and wrapping with a full dark, no stars account of terror, madness, murder, and more. It's Creepy Tapas, y'all.
Hey lambs, I haven't done this in a while. But hey, don't forget to give me a 5-star review if you love this episode. Giving me 5-star reviews helps this episode out. It's another free way you can help out Love and Murder. Just hit 5 stars on whatever platform you're on. If you're on Spotify, you just have to do it right as you could just do it right here in this episode. Just hit 5 stars. And if you're on any other platform like Apple, just go in, hit 5 stars, type in, I don't know, Kai's awesome, or you're awesome for listening and putting up with me. Whatever you want to type in. Just give me 5 stars. It does help people find out more about Love and Murder. And I do want to thank you for that. So before you go, just hit 5 stars right now. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you. Bye.